All right, Yankee fans, here we go. Field level tickets. Mariners, June 19th. Second caller, 866-540 WFAN. And listen again next hour for your chance to win. It's powered by Jersey Mike's, the official sub sandwich shop of the Yankees box office blitz. So all that coming up. Cespedes, we don't know if he's ready yet. The Mets wanted him to meet the media. They wouldn't. We'll see. Tomorrow he's going to run the bases. We don't know what kind of shape he's in. The Mets are letting him make his own decisions. We'll see. Frazier back today. So he's in the lineup, batting cleanup. They gave Judge the day off after a tough day yesterday. Stanton in the number 2 spot tonight. And CC against Estrada. And the Yankee-Toronto game on the 8th will now be returned to 1 o'clock. Two things went on there. One, the Yankees obviously were incensed and were really upset about it. And number two, evidently Toronto had a kids thing set up for that day, and they had a big crowd planned, and they didn't want the game late at night either. So the game got moved back to 1 o'clock. Tommy in Connecticut. What's up, Tommy?
Hey, Mike. I heard you talking to that guy about how callers should bring something to the table, so I have a debate to offer you.
Let's see if it's any good, guy.
I feel like with all the talk about the Warriors being like a great dynasty and stuff, I feel like a lot of people, specifically you, overlook the 0-1 Lakers with Shaq and Kobe as being one of the greatest teams. The way they dominated the postseason. Dominated.
Compared to, so legendary teams, compare it
I feel like they are
give me your great teams.
To be fair, I'm 27.
Well, then when you have them, come back and we'll chat. Until you have them, you have nothing to offer. Eli in Brooklyn, what's up, Eli?
Hey, Mike.
What's
I'm
happening?
also 27. So with all this MJ versus LeBron debate, so last night I was on YouTube for around 3 hours watching some MJ highlights. I didn't get to experience him. I just want to hear your take just on Michael. You know, because you obviously lived through it. You were in the business. What's your take on Michael? How do you view him?
The most competitive player I've ever seen in any sport. As well conditioned as any player I've ever seen, but LeBron is in the same level of conditioning. The thing about him that stuck out was he didn't want to win. He had to win. Drove his teammates mercifully, intimidated everybody in his surroundings, was treated like an absolute king, and he would will the game at times to make the shot. But he was much more of a position player than LeBron is, if you're going to use them as the comparison. He was a two-guard, pure and simple. He had a role. That was his role. And, you know, there were many games in those days that were just unbelievably fierce, crazy games where he would take he'd get his points, but he would take so many shots. And they would do a good job on him, but he would make the big one. I mean, that's what he did. He was, the thing I remember about him the most, and I saw him play in college. It was no secret he was going to be one of the all-time greats. But what made him different, not just, here was this sleek, 6'5", two-guard who had immense ability, but he was the fiercest competitor. He had to win. He didn't want to win. He had to win. And he acted like nobody was his equal, not his teammates, not his opponents. Nobody was his equal. He was different. Nobody was in the league with, as far as he was concerned, he was on a different level than everybody. And that's how he acted. Lou in Huntington, what's up, Lou? Lou going once. Gone. Mike in Montclair, go ahead, Mike.
I want to give you two guys that I thought were better shooters than Jerry West.
Ray
Allen and Reggie Miller.
Better shooters.
Better pure shooters.
Well, Jerry's shot, some people didn't like the flatness of Jerry's shot in that it didn't have as much arc on it as some of these more modern jump shots. Mm-hmm. I think Curry's shot is the purest shot as far as just a jump shot that I've ever seen.
Yeah, but you had Jerry West
second, third,
yeah,
on the distance.
I want to put Ray Allen and Reggie Miller.
I think they're both. I think both very clutch. I think obviously Reggie was even more clutch. If you want to go on clutchness, the other guy you would put in there would be Sam Jones. But I'm talking about just on distance, on pure distance, the ability to control the shot for a distance. And that list, I put Curry Pete Maravich and West. And the example, West throwing in what is really a beautifully formed 65-foot shot to tie a game in overtime. I mean, it was not a heave. It was a shot that was 65 feet. And Curry could do that same thing. And Pistol could take shots of that kind of depth. Curry can take a shot that is really 38 feet, and the form is perfect. And the range is perfect, and it goes on the rim like it's a regular shot, not like a heave or not like it's thrown hard or like it's thrown one-handed. It's like it's perfect. And that's what he brings, and that's why I said on the depth of the shot, Jerry's was a little bit more than some people might like in terms of a line drive, but was a brilliant shot and clutch, as was Reggie, incredibly clutch. Reggie wasn't in the league of some of these guys, but clutch, he was unbelievable. And Sam Jones was another guy who was a clutch player. This Ed Coleman report brought to you by Bay Ridge Honda, one of the dealerships proudly owned by Robbie Sabah in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, by CSEA Local 830. We work for you. And by the locally owned and operated Papa John's, proud partner of the New York Mets, and by the Interstate Batteries, every battery for every need. I want to get Eddie up and further the Cespedes talk, Eddie. So you're there. You can clear it up. What is going on? What happened today? What didn't happen today? What happened with the media today? And where are we?
Well, he took part in a simulated game with Syndergaard. That was about 5 o'clock or so, or about 4:30 or so. Syndergaard threw about 35 pitches, something like that. Cespedes, Jose Lobaton, and Luis Guillorme took hacks against him. He didn't want to talk to the press afterwards, which is, normal.
What is that, like 3 straight times now he's refused to talk to the media?
Oh, at least. Yeah,
okay.
At least that I can count anyway. He just refuses to talk. All we want to know is, what his timeline is, or if he has a timeline, or how he feels, basically. But apparently we're not going to get anything out of him. So Syndergaard is going to talk around 6. He had to do something beforehand.
Is Syndergaard still slated for Sunday night?
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
I talked to Dave Ireland, the pitching coach, and he said they have to look at the finger tomorrow just to see if it swells up at all, but it went well today. He didn't really feel anything. He still feels it a little bit when he's throwing, but it's nothing out of the ordinary. And they expect it to be okay tomorrow. And if it's okay tomorrow, then he'll be, penciled in for Sunday. So that should be good to go. Yeah.
All right, Eddie, let's go back to Cespedes. There's no secret now. I think it's pretty much obvious the last couple of days. And, I mentioned the other day, the Mets have clearly lost patience with Cespedes' recovery here. Sandy tweaked them. The manager tweaked them. There's no question they are, if not trying to say something about his recovery, they are at least have a little bit of a odd glance at him, wondering exactly where he is, since nobody seems to know. Where are we in this process right now?
I wish I could tell you, Mike. I mean, I think, listen, I thought he'd be back before this because, as I said, and I think I told you when I was talking to you one time, he was out here taking ground balls at third base and shortstop, and he looked fine to me. I haven't seen him in the outfield shagging balls. This was the first time he was in the cage today hitting. He did do that beforehand and then came out and they did this on the field. They had like a simulated game. And he took, I think, 3 turns at the plate. He looked fine. He swung fine. Some balls jumped off his bat. But again, we can't get any further information as to how he feels or when he thinks he might be back. They keep saying that, we'll assess it after what happens today. So I would imagine Mickey Callaway will have something to say after the game, maybe, because I'm sure we're going to ask him about Cespedes because he's not talking to us. So that's where we sit at this point in time.
I know he's going to run the bases tomorrow, Ed. Is that something that's officially planned now, that he's going to run the bases tomorrow?
That's a possibility, yes, as far as I know. As far as I know, that's going to happen. And he's got to do that before he does anything. He's got to run the bases. Listen, to me, I think he needs a couple of rehab games.
Which they said they'd leave up to him, right?
Right, which makes no sense to me.
Usually you tell them what to do, not ask them what to do.
I would think most players are kind of told, you're going to go here, or we need you to do a couple of rehab games, and I don't think that's, I don't think that's asking too much. I mean, like I said, he hasn't played. It's been 3 weeks now since he's played, so he hasn't faced any kind of pitching. You want to jump right into the Yankee series? Well, just watching him, it looks like he could play this weekend, but at the same time, I would think you might need a couple of games as well, too. But this is Tuesday. If you're not going to go out and play games Wednesday and Thursday, you're not going to be here for the weekend. So I don't know. I can't tell you he's definitely going to be here this weekend, but I would think there's an outside possibility.
And plus, it has to obviously irk everybody that here's the guy that they're paying the most money to, who is watching the team lose 4 in a row, 8 out of 10, put an incredibly anemic lineup on the field against lefties, and has not even made a statement about what his condition is.
Yeah, listen, this to me, he is not. He's not the vocal leader type. He's going to let his bat. He's going to let his bat do his talking, and I get that. Some guys do. Right. That's fine. Okay. But if I was watching this team spiral downward, and especially offensively here over the last couple of weeks, I'd be doing everything I could to get back here, or at least stating my intentions that I want to get back here as soon as possible. But again, we haven't heard it. Now, maybe he's telling his teammates, that's fine.
And to be fair, Eddie, when Terry left, one of the things you heard was that he couldn't handle Cespedes. And, he never had a problem like this with Cespedes.
I would agree. Terry, he shot straight with everybody. So, he shot straight with Uranus as well, too. I did the kid glove stuff. That's what it seems to me to be, and I don't get it. I understand. He's your highest paid player. He's a sensitive guy sometimes, but at the same time, he's still an employee. Okay, that's what I always feel, and that's if they want to ask you to do something, then I think you should go do it. But apparently, he's declined once again. So.
All right, Eddie. So this team, the other thing I noticed was this. A lot of guys have been very high on Nimmo, which I think has been fair. Okay, he's played, and his numbers are good, except one thing. When I'm sitting there Sunday, and it was a lousy day Sunday, so I'm sitting there watching the game, and I'm looking at the numbers. His numbers against lefties are awful. He's 6 for 37 with 18 strikeouts. He's got a 1.2 OPS against righties. He's got a 200 against lefties. This guy hasn't shown he can hit lefties at all.
Yeah, and actually those numbers are a little bit better recently, honestly. Not so much over the weekend. He had a tough weekend, but prior to that, it had actually come up a little bit. I think he was over 200, but it's back down below 200 at this point. They're being force-fed, and actually, Conforto is another one, too, that, is being fed a steady diet of left-handers, but they have no choice. Now they will have more of a choice with Frazier back here. It's another right-handed bat you can put in the lineup, but at the same time, until Cespedes gets back here, Nimmo's going to play, Conforto's going to play, and these guys will face lefties. Now, they do get a break because both of the Baltimore pitchers, you have Cobb tonight and Bundy tomorrow, and the Yankees, I think, will send 3 righties. I don't think CC is pitching tonight. Right?
Yes.
So he's going to, and with the doubleheader, I think that he'll miss the Mets series. So they're going to have 5 straight right-handers, which helps. But they've had no choice, honestly, Mike, without Cespedes in the lineup. That has an effect on Nimmo's numbers as well. Nimmo would not have played as much against left-handers, even though they're trying to get him better in that regard, but he would not have played that much if Cespedes were around. So there's another factor that shakes out from him not being here.
No, yeah, absolutely. Now listen, what I'm saying is that you can't treat this guy like he's an everyday play yet until he proves he can at least handle his own against the lefties, which he has not done. He's killed right-handed pitching.
Yes, no, I agree. He still has work to do. He's a kid, and again, this is a big leap for him this year. And listen, I like him a lot simply because I think he's improved every year, and he has improved this year too. But that's something he still has to work on as well. Conforto has had trouble with lefties thus far too. I think he's below 200 as well. I think he's at 186 thus far. So he's struggled that way too. But, again, if you don't have any choices, and they don't in the outfield, unless you're going to start wheeling different guys out there to play outfield who haven't done it before, until Cespedes gets back here, you have one less righty bat in the outfield.
Have you noticed yet, and you've been around that team longer than anybody, you've covered that team longer than anybody who's covered it, DeGrom, you know him very well. Have you sensed a level of frustration that's kind of brimming over with DeGrom? Because DeGrom should be like 9-0 right now. I mean, he's 4-0. He should be 9-0 or 8-0 minimum. He's 4-0. It's really utterly ridiculous how he's pitched. The guy's pitched as well as Scherzer, who's 9-1. It's got to be getting to him.
It has. I think, privately, and listen, publicly he has not said anything, and he's as good a team person as you're going to get. He's one of the leaders of this team. I think we all know what kind of pitcher he is and what he gives out on the mound each and every time. But it's been frustrating for him. It has. I think what's kept him kind of above water is the fact that he knows he's pitching as well as anybody in baseball, and he is. I mean, he's up there with, anybody that you can stack up, Verlander and Scherzer, anybody. He's pitched that well, and I think he knows that, and I think he realizes everybody else knows it too. So the frustrating part for him is just not getting wins for the team and coming out of games and seeing those, the small leads they have disappear rather quickly. So, yeah, it has been frustrating, but I think he's been okay with it simply because he knows he's pitching, right at the top of his game.
All right, what do you think about what's going on there right now, Eddie? Has the manager got things under control, or are things spinning a little out of control right now?
No, I think I think the off day probably helped a little bit to kind of reassess things. But to me, I didn't love his comment about Cleveland the other day. I thought that was. That doesn't really help anything. Talking about that, if these guys are playing in Cleveland, there might be less pressure. Well, you're not. You're in New York, okay? So we're here. You have to deal with that. And even Sandy in his press conference too, when he came up with the, and I know you're trying to find positives to deal with, but at the same time, when you come out and say, we're 8-8 in our last 16, what does that prove? It proves you're a 500 team. That's not exactly that's not a goal for this team. You want to be a playoff team,
that's tough stuff. Exactly. Yes.
Right now you're 8-12. Okay, you were 8-8. Now you're 8-12. All right. So I mean that makes no sense to me. And so.
Plus, Joe Madden had his way with Callaway over the weekend too. I mean, I know people get carried away with Madden, and some people think he's Casey Stengel. I always think that they get a little carried away, but in that series, boy, he schooled them. He did school them.
He did. Joe pulled out every trick in the book. He had a beautifully executed hit and run. He had a suicide squeeze. He had everything going. A relief pitcher that he pulled out for 5 innings in a 14-inning game. Joe did a little bit of everything. So it looked bad, and it was a bad weekend. There's no question. It was a bad weekend for the manager, a bad weekend for the team. But I think things have settled down a little bit. I think they realize that they have a team in here that they can handle, and they better handle before the Yankee series. I think it's kind of silly to say that this is a big game tonight against the Baltimore Orioles, but I think it's a big game against the Baltimore Orioles, and especially with Vargas going, you need something out of him to show you that he can still stay in this rotation and help. So it's a big spot for him.
All right, Eddie, thanks very much. We'll chat. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, Mike.
There's Eddie on Cespedes and everything. Let me give you the Belmont. Here it is, 10 deep. Justify has the pole, has the rail at 4 to 5. Free Drop Willie, Bravazzo, Hofberg, which is very much the horse now for Billy Mott. That's a horse you're going to hear a lot of. A lot of people high on Hofberg. Restoring Hope, which I still don't understand why Baffert has another horse in the race. Gronkowski, which will get a lot of attention because of the horse, because of the connections, and because of the person who the horse is named after, who supposedly will be at Belmont on Saturday. Tenfold, Vino Rosso, Noble Indy, and Blended Citizen. Those are your 10 going. Postwood in the 1.5 mile, Test of the Champion, as they will try, 9 others will try to thwart Justify and keep him from winning the Triple Crown. So the most logical horses to threaten, Hofberg, Bravazzo, Vino Rosso. Those would be, and again, I wouldn't, and we don't know exactly that much about Gronkowski yet. We'll test him a little bit, but that's where we are right now as we get ready. Justify has the 1 and is 4-5 to win the Triple Crown. Back after this.